What's good, nephew?
Summer, I was talking with you, right?
Alright, we all good. Okay, so check it out. I'm going to conduct this first audio Filthy Rags Outreach interview. And before we get started, I want you to know it's going to be like called the hot seat because I'm going to put you on the hot seat. I'm going to catch you off guard. And before we get started, I want to introduce myself. My name is Robert Hampton. You know, I'm bi-coastal. I'm representing. I'm out of Detroit, Michigan, to the northwest, you know, Portland, Oregon, Vancouver, Washington, to here, you know, the prison. So before we get started, champ, could you just introduce yourself?
Yeah, this is Charles Champion, you know. Most of my peers know me as Baby Jody, Seattle, Washington.
Okay. We'll stop there then. Okay, so let's get right into it. Filthy Rags Outreach, how did this come about?
Man, it started with a vision that God had given my bro, Alfonso, you know. And we just started out here on the big yard here in the joint.
Okay, all right. So how did you and Alfonso meet?
Man, right here at Stafford Creek, you know. It was mine, you know, the Lord had brought us together, so we ran right here, H4 at Stafford Creek.
Okay, but you got to be more specific. Where did y'all meet? When did y'all meet? How did y'all meet? There's got to be some nexus to this relationship. So speak about the dynamics of the relationship.
Oh, man, it's beautiful, man. You know what I'm saying? We both come from the same walk of life, you know what I'm saying? So having turned our life over to Christ, you know what I'm saying, man, there was automatic connection right then and there. You know, coming up out of the gang life, you know, both down with the Lord the way that we is. So it was just, we just clicked right off the muscle.
Okay. I don't really feel like you answered my question there because you didn't tell me where y'all met, except for that y'all met here. Y'all met in the unit. You didn't tell me what year, but that's fine. We're going to move on. You know what I'm saying? I want to talk about when you guys first started the Filthy Rags because I remember because I was really out there on the yard a lot. You know what I'm saying? So, like, talk about that for the people that's listening about you guys' struggle to get this thing started and how y'all had to go to the yard in the freezing cold to really, you know, start this thing.
Man, it just started because, you know, going up into the churches and stuff, you know what I mean, we just started noticing that there wasn't nobody up in the churches that, you know what I'm saying, that really looked like us and come from where we come from. But at the same time, we knew that there was more people like us that come from our walk of life that God was calling. You know what I mean? So we sat down, we talked about it, you know what I mean, and tried to figure out, you know, how can we get past that, you know what I'm saying, come from the street life, that come from our walk of life up in the church. So we was like, you know, since the church ain't coming to them, we're going to bring the church to them. So we just started bringing it to them. So we just started going out to the yard, you know what I mean, and just started targeting just people that come from the street life, people that come from the gang lifestyle, and just started targeting them with the gospel. And it just started growing. You know, it started with about 4 of us just meeting out on the yard every third Sunday. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. So eventually, you know, God bless us and opened up the door for us to be able to take what we were doing outside and bring it into a classroom.
Okay, for sure. And I just happen to have a little bit more insight, and I think it's a little deeper than that because, you know, in order to connect, you got to understand people on the outside won't understand, but it's 7 different units. And so it's going to be different connections and different times where you're going to be meeting with various different people. And for you guys to actually spend your time on the yard and do that, you know what I'm saying, the sacrifice, you know. So I don't think you really spoke to it, but I'll cover it real quick. And I just felt like there was a lot of sacrifice for y'all to get this thing going that people on the outside will never really realize. So I'll speak to it since you missed it. But what I want to do, too, is I want to go over something else that you missed because I did an interview with you called From the Valley of the Darkness to the Other Side. And in that interview, you know, we discussed some intimate details of you being locked up for the tragic loss of a law enforcement officer at your hands. And at that time, you know, one of the things that I wanted you to speak about was just not really the life on thinking that you're going to be on death row, but leading up to that, you know, what was your feelings like? Did you know that you would be charged with the death penalty? And what was your mind state? So if you could just speak about that real quick. And I don't mean to put you on the hot seat, but that's what I do.
Alright. So, you know, man, just leading up to it, man, you know, a lot of my run-ins with the one times, you know, really just started with because of my name. Just because of, you know what I'm saying, who I was and who my dad was, you know. And so, you know, my dad, you know what I'm saying, he was pimping and stuff like that. And the police really just hated my dad because they knew that he was doing it, but they could never really do nothing about it. And so, you know, that was always, you know, on him. And so then, as a result of that, you know, by the time I got around to 11, 12, 13 years old, you know, they started, you know, targeting me. And that was like, you know, that mentality was like, hey, that's champion son. So before I had even stepped off the porch and started doing anything, I was already being targeted by, you know what I'm saying, law enforcement. And so, you know, it started off a real rough relationship between my perception of the police and just being me. And, you know, it just started off real bad, and it just really, honestly, it just went back and forth until eventually, you know, what happened.
Okay, I dig it, and that's cool. So, like, you know, in you explaining that, you were talking about like your dad and your name, but now when you speak about names, you know, you represent another name because you got a big homeboy who had a name out there, and his name was known, but it was known because of a lot of things that he was doing as far as putting in a lot of work out there. So, how did that translate to you coming to prison or just being on the streets, being that you're the little version of that guy? You know what I'm saying? Do you want to speak to the name and speak to anything that may have happened because of you representing that name?
Yeah, just, you know, I'm from the Johnny family, you know. I'm back Johnny, you know. And so when my older homeboys seen me, you know, they seen how I was, the mentality that I possessed, you know what I'm saying, coming up the way that I was. My dad always raised me, you know, to live up to my last name, and whatever it is that I did, just do it to the fullest. And so I really had that mentality growing up as far as being a champion. So I was always, you know, just willing to go the distance with everything that I did. And people seen that, you know what I mean? And so that's how, you know, Big and Lil, that's how they drafted me, you know? Big Jody and Lil Jody, you know, they brought me under their wing. And naturally, you know, just being the type of young leader that I was, you know, I just took the name and just continued to carry that, you know, and I had a mentality that, you know, I was going to further it and continue to keep it popping and keep it live.
Okay. So, you know, I'm still digging deep, you know, because I'm locked up with you, you know what I'm saying? And so, you know, when you make these choices and you make this transition, you know what I'm saying? You know, you have to plant your feet firm, you know, they call it 10 toes down, you know, so it's like it's Christ or the neighborhood. And so I bring that up because even as I watch from afar, you know, I got to be honest because I'm in the same situation where sometimes the hood's calling your name and certain things happen and people expect things out of you, you know what I'm saying? So real quick, and I've seen you in these situations, you know what I'm saying? So talk about it.
Be specific one more time.
I said, when you make these choices, you know, they call it 10 toes down in the streets. You know, we call it that in here too, but it's like Christ or the hood. So you've made that transition, but the hood still be calling. So sometimes you've been in situations where, you know, you're still around. So the situations will affect you, you know what I'm saying, because you're around. So I want you to speak to it, and I want you to speak honest to it.
Yeah, okay, I follow you now. It took me a second to catch on where you was coming from. But, you know, like I said, man, with everything that I did, man, I wanted to do it to the fullest. And so when Christ came into my life and I made that decision, you know what I'm saying, to live my life with God because of what he had did for me, you know, I went full flow. That too. You I was all the way with that too. The same effort and the same energy that I put in toward giving to the hood, is what I give to Christ now. You know what I mean? Because of what He did for me. So when I decided to walk with the Lord, I was just as got hope in that as I was when it came to the hood. So even though, I still be around the homies and stuff because, I want to see all my homeboys saved, I wanted to see them experience, the same life-changing experiences that God has brought about in my life. And I wanted them to experience it too. So I ain't going to never turn my back on them, I'm going to stay reaching back for them. I'm going to do everything I can, without at the same time losing myself because just as I was loyal to the hood, now I'm loyal to the Christ now. So I'm loyal to the kingdom. So it ain't no turning back for me, especially after He exposed the false realities to me. So that's just what it is with me.
Okay, fair enough. So let's go a little bit deeper. Let's talk about temptation. And I want you to be honest. Do you feel like women is your weakness?
Nah, not at all. Not at all. And you got to remember, I've been doing most of my time, with one woman. It's only recently, that circumstances have changed.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. What kind of woman do you want in your life?
Man, absolutely. I need a woman that, that got just as much vision, drive, ambition as I do, and especially, the fear of the Lord like I do. That's something that I'm definitely looking for, So, yeah.
Okay, and what do you want out of this life?
What I want out of this life?
Yeah, you only live once.
Yeah. I mean, man, I just want to be able to fulfill the purpose that He called for me, man. I just want to be able to stand before God and know that I've done everything that He asked me to do with what He's given me.
Okay. What about your goals upon getting released?
Say that again?
What about your goals upon getting released?
Man, what I really want to do is be able to continue this work in the ministry with Filthy Rags Outreach. For a long time I had, different goals and ambitions in terms of what I wanted to do when I get out because I did nothing but spend my whole incarceration with educating myself and drawing closer to God. And so in the process of that, I've developed a lot of, entrepreneurial goals, business ventures that I wanted to do. But in these recent years, man, God has kind of been shifting my focus more toward ministry. And so in these last couple of years, I've really been laser focused on building this Filthy Rags Outreach and just really just having a foundation.
Okay, so let me ask about Filthy Rags Outreach. I'm sorry, I interrupted, brother. What kind of scrutiny have you caught from viewers or people on your website for Filthy Rags Outreach?
Man, with anything that you do, have some that's going to love it, have some that's going to hate it, you know what I mean? The ones that's hating it, I ain't giving it too much attention to it, so honestly, I couldn't even really tell you. But I do know that, it's been getting a good response and received by the people,
Okay, so let me ask you this. Does Filthy Rags Outreach serve Christ's agenda? And if so, tell the people how.
And one of the main things that, God was giving to us was He was letting us know, saying that He got a lane for us too. That just because we come from the street lifestyle and we come from the walk of life that we come from, that He ain't forgot about us, you know what I mean? And so what Filthy Rags Outreach is all about, it's about letting people from the street life, from the gang lifestyle know that God got a lane for us too. And that He can use us too. In the same way that we was pushing for the things that we was pushing for, we can take those same gifts and talents and turn around and use it for Him. And so that's how we serving the people because God ain't leaving none of us behind like that. So that's why He brought forth the vision for Filthy Rags Outreach.
Okay. And just so the people know that's listening, we only have a 20-minute phone call, so I want to start wrapping it up real quick, but I want to ask you, how do you serve Christ daily?
How do we do it?
No, how do you serve Christ daily?
Yeah. One of the biggest ways that I serve him, is just walking the way that he's asked me to walk, being an example, to those around me. Let people know that change is real and it can happen if you give your life to them. There's people around here that know, the type of individual that I was and the way that I was living my life, and they still see shot that, the transformation has been brought about. So, I just continue to just serve Christ, make myself available to the people, and, keep giving away what he's giving me.
Okay, I dig it. So check it out. What I want to do is I want to bring this interview to an end real quick, you know what I'm saying? So I want to give you the last word, but before I give you the last word, I just want to say that I admire the work that y'all do, and I thank you guys for pulling me in, Obviously, we come from some of the same walks of life, and our stories our paths are similar, but I really believe in the work that you guys is doing. So I want to give you the last word, and I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. And I really appreciate you guys, and I look up to you guys and admire the work that you do. And I just want to say thank you, brother, and I love you, and I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, man. When Christ was going around ministering the gospel, the people they was coming to him, not so much because of what he was saying, but more so because of what he was doing. He was out there meeting the needs of the people. He was healing the sick. He was casting out demons. He was opening the eyes of the blind. He was feeding the poor. They followed him and looked to him because of not so much of what he was saying, but more so of what he was doing. And that's what God has called us to do. He's called us to meet people right where they're at and meet their needs. And so that's what we're all about. We're trying to meet the needs of the people. You know what I mean? Because we know that this is what's going to draw people in. The compassion, the love, the ability to be able to relate to those who, we can identify with. And so, looking back outreach, that's what one of the main pushes that we're doing. So when I touch down, when Robb touch down, all of us touch down. All 7 core members, that's what we are, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to be able to bring the gospel of Christ right to the hood. If ain't nobody else out there, we're going to be right there in the thick of it.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
All right, brother. So, they gave us this 60 seconds, so I wanted to give you the last word, but I want to just close out and just let the people know that hear this is that we don't do anything rehearsed, and it's just from the heart, and this is what we do, and again, I thank you guys for allowing me to be a part of this, champ. I love you, brother. Thank you, and peace.
Yeah. And the Lord bless
you have 30 seconds remaining.